Hello everyone, my name is Kayla Chen, and the question I chose to do my research on is how do smells bring up specific types of memories? So let me start off by explaining the Proust effect created by Marcel Proust. The Proust effect is a phenomenon where a smell can trigger a vivid memory from a past experience. He created the Proust effect after his own experience of smelling the scent of Madeleine cookies dipped in tea and that triggering memories from his own childhood. Scientists have conducted extensive research into the connection between odors and the brain, revealing that smells have a direct pathway to key areas within the limbic system, including the amygdala and hippocampus. The limbic system is a critical region of the brain involved in regulating emotions, memories, and behaviors. Specifically, the amygdala is responsible for processing emotions such as fear, happiness, pleasure, while the hippocampus plays a vital role in the storage, organization, and recall of our memories. This close relationship between the olfactory system, the system responsible for detecting and processing smells, and the limbic system is a key reason why smells can trigger such strong emotional reactions and vivid memories. The olfactory system and the limbic system are located near each other in the brain, which allows for a direct and efficient communication pathway between them. When a person smells something, sensory information is detected by receptors in the nose, which then send signals to the olfactory bulb. From there, the signals travel quickly to the brain's limbic system. This swift connection is important because it allows the brain to immediately process the emotional significance of the scent and link it to past experiences. This is why the sense of smell is so closely tied to our emotional reactions and memory recall. Once the olfactory bulb transmits the scent signals to the limbic system, the amygdala can process the emotional response associated with the odor, while the hippocampus retrieves any related memories. For example, if someone smells the scent of a familiar perfume, the brain may associate that scent with a loved one and evoke emotions tied to past experiences with that person. The hippocampus then brings up memories connected to the scent, allowing the individual to recall specific moments in time. The direct link between smell and memory is much faster than with our other senses, such as sight or hearing, because the olfactory system is able to bypass the thalamus, which is involved in processing most of our other sensory information. As a result, smells have an almost immediate effect on our emotions and memory recall, making them powerful triggers for both positive and negative experiences. The close proximity of the olfactory system to the limbic system provide a quick and efficient pathway for smells to evoke emotional reactions and bring past memories to the forefront of our consciousness. The amygdala and hippocampus work together to process these emotional responses and retrieve memories, explaining why certain smells can be so powerful in triggering emotions and recollections. So I chose to approach my research question from both a psychological and scientific lens in order to gain a deeper understanding of this phenomenon. From a psychological standpoint, it became clear that the smells we encounter at a particular moment in our lives can create lasting associates in our minds. When a person smells something in a specific context, whether it's a scent tied to a traumatic event or a pleasant experience, those smells become linked to the emotions and memories of that moment. The process can be understood through the lens of classical conditioning, a psychological principle where an environmental stimulus, in this case a smell, becomes associated with a certain response, which is the emotional response, through repeated exposure. Over time, the brain begins to connect the smell with the specific memory, creating a powerful association that can trigger an emotional response when the smell is encountered again. The emotional response linked to a certain smell can be so profound that it feels almost automatic. For instance, the scent of a particular perfume worn by a loved one, or the smell of a hospital room, may evoke a wave of feelings as our brains have deeply embedded those scents into the emotional memory tied to those experiences. This kind of sensory memory is not only a psychological phenomenon, but also a powerful tool for understanding how our emotions and experiences shape the way we remember the past. In addition to exploring the psychological aspect of this phenomenon, I also wanted to investigate it through a scientific standpoint. There has been a significant amount of research in the field of neuroscience that supports the connection between our sense of smell and memory. The olfactory system, which is responsible for our sense of smell, is directly linked to the brain's limbic system, the region responsible for emotions and memory processing. The close connection explains why smells can have such a strong impact on our emotions and memories. Numerous studies have shown that when we smell something, the olfactory bulb located in the brain plays a crucial role in processing that sensory information and creating the emotional associations tied to it. The brain processes scents more rapidly than with any of our other sensory stimuli because of its direct connection to the limbic system, which further explains why certain smells can trigger vivid and emotional memory so quickly. By examining both the psychological processes and the scientific data on how the brain and olfactory system work together, I was able to better understand the complex relationship between smells and memories. This dual approach has not only provided insight into how smells can evoke powerful emotional responses, but also highlighted the intricate ways in which our brains store and retrieve our memories. So in this slide, there's a quote proving how brains are more active with odor-linked memories than with memories brought on by pictures, creating a more vivid memory and creating a stronger emotional response. An experiment was done by William McDough, who interviewed the son of a sawmill worker. He described having vivid memories of working at the sawmill when he smelled the scent of sawdust, but looking at sawdust didn't bring back any memories at all. Here's another quote to explain the process of the olfactory bulb and the limbic system creating a strong memory through odors. From all these quotes, it can be seen how a lot of research has been done to connect smells to memories. There is a gap in the research. Even from all the sources I looked through, there was never any research done on how smells can trigger specific types of memories and how that can affect our emotions and behaviors. This is why I created my question, how do smells bring up specific types of memories? The methodology I used was a survey-based methodology. I use this because with survey-based methodology, I am able to send it out to a large number of people at the same time, and it allows me to ask target questions through open-ended questions and get the most specific answers as possible. And getting the most specific answers as possible was very important since all the responses had to deal with a lot of detail from everyone's specific types of memories. The participants I included in my research were students and teachers in the school, North Brunswick Township High School, and elderly people. I sent email to teachers to not only do themselves, but to send it out to their own students to do. And I connected with the elderly home Whispering Woods, which agreed to let me visit and verbally ask them my questions since they couldn't use technology themselves. These were the questions involved in my Google form. The questions being, what specific smell do you associate with a good memory and why? What specific smell do you correlate with a bad memory and why? And are there any other specific smells you correlate with a memory? If so, what type of memory? All answers were anonymous, meaning no emails, names, or ages were recorded. Before getting my survey approved, my original survey had the topic question being, how do smells trigger traumatic memories? With the questions asking, what's a smell that triggers a good memory and why, and what's a smell that triggers a bad memory and why. After presenting my proposal in front of the ethics board, they decided it could be harmful to the participant and ultimately decided to reject this action. Afterwards, I found a way to make it less harmful and have the patients less at risk, which then was able to be passed by the ethics board. Which is why in the beginning of my survey, I attached multiple helplines in case anyone would start to experience PTSD or any stronger emotion when remembering a bad memory or any other certain type of memory. In the end, I was able to get 30 responses and was able to compare the different answers to each other. When asked the question, was it smell you correlate with a good memory and why? Many memories involve memories of childhood and the beach, bringing out emotions of nostalgia and relaxation. 8 out of the 30 responses all had similar answers of having memories of their childhood through smells like freshly cut grass and Play-Doh. It was an important memory to the participants because it was when they felt less stressed and more free. The smell of the beach and ocean was another common answer because it reminds them of summer and relaxation. When asked the question, was a smell you correlate with a bad memory and why? Many memories involve memories of being in a car crash or a time when they weren't the best mentally. For example, one response was the smell of strawberry shortcake Victoria's Secret perfume because of using it a lot during freshman year and just not being in the right place mentally. 4 out of the 30 responses also had the similar answer of smoke either from car accidents, fires, or being around a loved one that was smoking a lot. When asked the question, are there any other specific smells you correlate with a certain type of memory? If so, what type of memory? 7 out of the 30 responses all involve memories of loved ones, such as the smell of a mother's perfume or the scent of a guitar case when their father would play for them. After collecting and carefully examining my data, I was able to conclude that the reason people associate a particular smell with a specific memory is due to the powerful connection between scent and emotion. When we experience a memory, especially one that's particularly important, whether emotional or traumatic, our brains often link the memory to the sensory details surrounding it, including smells. For example, if someone experiences a traumatic event, like a car crash or a deeply meaningful moment with a loved one, their brain may associate the smell present during that moment with the emotions and sensations tied to it. This is because the brain tends to prioritize memories that are emotionally significant, whether they are positive or negative. Interestingly, our brains are wired to forget or deprioritize less significant experiences, which is why smells linked to mundane events often do not trigger an emotional response or a strong emotional response at all. However, when it comes to more profound memories, like the scent of smoke from a loved one smoking or the smell of a hospital room following a traumatic event, those memories become etched deeply into our minds. This deep embedding makes it much harder to forget these sensory experiences, and as a result, the smell from the past can easily trigger a rush of emotions and recollections from the specific time or event. The same principle applies to positive memories as well. When we experience joyful, fulfilling moments, such as spending time with family or enjoying a favorite meal, the smells associated with those happy times can become deeply embedded into our brain. Since these memories involve feelings of joy and comfort that we cherish so much, the brain strengthens its connection to the smells present during these experiences. As a result, the scent can act as a trigger that immediately brings those warm, happy feelings come flooding back. Some challenges I faced during my research were related to the number of participants, the accuracy of memories, and the details in the responses. One of the biggest issues was not having enough elderly participants. When I visited the elderly home, I found that half of the building was dedicated to memory care, which meant that those patients didn't remember any of their memories at all, while the other half that I couldn't interview just chose not to be involved at all. This resulted in a smaller group of elderly participants than I had hoped for, which made it difficult to compare their answers to the ones given by teachers and students. Another challenge was the accuracy of memories, especially with elderly participants. As people get older, it becomes harder for them to remember specific details about their past. Sometimes their memories may not be as clear or may change over time. This meant that their memories might not have been completely accurate, which could affect the way they felt about the memory and how they answered the questions. These changes in their recollection could have impacted the results and made it harder to draw clear conclusions. The last limitation was the level of details in the responses I received. Like I mentioned before, the elderly participants often didn't provide any detail about their memories, either because they couldn't remember or because they just chose not to. Some teachers and students also gave answers that were lacking in detail. If they had provided more specific information, it would have helped me better understand their memories and the emotions attached to them. More detailed responses would have given me a clearer picture of how they felt about their experiences and would have drawn a clear conclusion in the end. Thank you.
Okay. What was the most important source of information you found while conducting your research for your methodology? And why was it important to your research process?
So the most important source I found was from the National Library of Medicine. I saw how they were explaining how they conducted their experiments by having participants and having them smell scents and see if that triggered memories from them. So I knew that I had to involve people in my methodology, which is why I chose the survey-based methodology to have a lot of participants. I just chose not to have smells for them to smell because that could be a waste of time, and I would rather have them just answer my question of seeing what smells do they associate with something. So having that sort of showed that I needed participants.
Thank you.
Alright, so I have two questions. So if If you had more time to do additional background research, which lens or perspective would you focus on and why?
I would probably focus more on the futuristic lens to see how maybe therapies could be provided to see for participants with Alzheimer's or dementia, scent can be used to maybe bring those memories back and have them remember stuff again. So I would try to focus more on that futuristic lens and see how that could change over time.
Sure.
If you could revisit the research process, what would you do differently? Would you choose a different area of inquiry, and if so, why? If you would choose the same research question, what different methods or approaches would you use?
I would probably focus, I would still use this research question because it still really interests me. The only thing I would change was probably getting a different set of participants other than the elderly participants, since I used a lot of time trying to get information from them, but I still couldn't use a lot of that data because they just couldn't provide much for me. So I would probably switch out them with another group of people.
Yes, I do. Okay, so this is my own. So what smell surprised you the most in the research? And then it came to the triggering stronger specific memories in people.
Wait, can you repeat the second
Sure.
part?
So what smell surprised you the most in the research when it came to triggering stronger specific memories in people?
The smell that surprised me the most was the strawberry shortcake Victoria's Secret perfume. That was very specific, and it surprised me because I never thought I would get an answer that specific. But obviously, that's a very traumatizing scent for that person since they weren't in the right place mentally during that time, and that's why I decided to include it as part of my evidence in my presentation.